Sometimes we hold on to things in our lives way beyond their expiration date. And it can be out of loyalty, attachment, or just because they mean a lot to us. But as we mature and grow older, it is very normal and expected that we grow out of situations, people, and places that made completely sense for us in the past. But right now, those things are not serving us anymore. And keeping those things in our lives weight us down, delay our growth, and keeps us stuck in loops of rumination that sometimes has nothing to do with us anymore. You might even feel that you can live without that thing. The life without it is impossible to move forward. But there's only one truth in life, that nothing is permanent, and life is in constant motion all the time. And so this video for you today is a reminder to normalize the change of seasons that we all go through in life. And if you're new here, I'm Diego Goulart, and I support gay men on their personal development journeys. Today I'm going to talk about the fact that sometimes it is hard for us to identify or perceive a situation in our lives that might already had completed a cycle. And I'm going to give a few examples. It can be outgrowing a job or an entire career, which is what I'm facing right now. Maybe the job for you, it's not as exciting as it was before. Maybe you're not getting opportunities to grow and to develop. You feel that you're just stuck. But maybe you are holding on to out of comfort or just because you don't really know what to do next. It can be relationships. Relationships can fade with time, even friendships. We all have different goals, objectives, priorities in life. And what clicked between you and the other person might not be clicking anymore right now. And when we hold on to relationships longer than necessary, longer than the role they played in our lives, it only grows more distant and more awkward with time. And it can even be something meaningful to us, like a treatment, a specific therapy, or like something that supports you in our growth. For example, I was in therapy for a few years with one particular therapist. And over the last year or so that I was doing therapy, I was noticing some misalignments between us. I was noticing that I wasn't able to break through the issues and the thought loops that I was having at the time. I was, every week, every month having the same issues, having the same complaints. And I was noticing that there was something wrong. I was noticing that it wasn't helping me as it was before. But I was holding on to it because I felt that I needed that type of support in my life. I trusted the therapist, and I believed that she knew more than me. She knew better, and she was helping me in some way. But I wasn't seeing that it was time for me to let go of that therapy, of that particular relationship in my life. And it took me a good year or so to realize that. And eventually, I ended therapy with that particular therapist. Even though I didn't know exactly what was coming next, even though I was fearful about going on my own way, I was fearful about not being able to deal with my own issues myself without that person in my life anymore. But once I did that, I felt a relief right afterwards. And I felt that now I'm getting to be me again. And so that was the sign for me that I did the right thing. And the message here is, as we grow in our lives, as we heal certain parts of us, as we experience new things, we change. And what made sense for us in the past sometimes are not meant to be in our present, are not meant to be in this new version of us. And sometimes it's difficult for us to identify when it's time to change, when it's time to end something, when it's time to move on. And even like it was in my own case, even like therapies or support that you have at a given moment might prevent you from going further if you keep holding on to it. And I think for us gay men, there's an extra layer in this conversation because we have our own specific wounding about dealing with rejection, dealing with abandonment, dealing with lack of boundaries. We tend to have people pleasing behaviors. And so once we find something that works for us, we tend to hold on to it because we have a stronger need for belonging and acceptance by others. And so once we find a container, once we find an environment or a person that can hold us for who we are, we tend to hold on to it. And I see now that in my life, that's what happened. Not only with therapy, but in other situations as well. Like in my career. I was lucky enough for the majority of my career to be able to work for companies that supported minorities, that supported LGBT rights, and I was safe in most of those companies to be myself. And I was safe to say openly that I was gay, to say openly, to feel comfortable in who I am. And I was afraid to let it go. What if the next company is not the same? What if I don't know how to deal with that? And so sometimes we avoid growing further because we hold on to things in our lives that have meaning to us, that is supporting us. But once we feel that that's not in alignment anymore, that's usually the sign of growth. And we kind of force those things in our lives because we also have fear, fear of the unknown, fear, as I said at the beginning, fear of not knowing if I'm going to be able to manage it on my own. That's, a lack of trust, lack of self-trust, lack of, I'm not believing in myself that I'm able to handle it, whatever comes next. And so because of that, because you're holding on to things longer than necessary in your life, maybe right now you're feeling stuck. Maybe right now you feel that there's something weighing you down, but you don't know what it is. You're just feeling that there's something odd happening, even when on the surface everything looks fine. And as you can see, keeping things in our lives beyond their expiration date has a lot of drawbacks, and it costs us a lot. It can prevent us from going further in our careers. It can prevent us from meeting new people, for allowing new people to come into our lives, people that might be more resonant with who we are now. It can prevent us from exploring new areas, exploring new possibilities. It can prevent us just in general from being our fully selves, from being who we are in our capacity, in our full capacity. So let's say you now have something clearly in your life that you are ready to let go, that you identify that it's not resonating with you in the present moment. And I want to say that it is important for us to let go of that thing with gratitude, because anger, it's pretty common at that stage. Because anger means, when we get angry, it means that we are seeing something now that we weren't seeing before. And that can trigger anger. But anger in this case, it's something positive. It's because it triggers something in us that we weren't seeing. So it's kind of positive. And I want to revert back to my therapy example, because I was very angry towards the end of the sessions, because I was seeing clearly that she wasn't getting me. She wasn't getting my points. She wasn't getting where I was at in my life at that stage. I could see then that she was quite limited, and we all are limited. We're all humans. We all have our limitations. No one's perfect. No one will ever be perfect. But I guess I set a very high expectation for that relationship. And then towards the end, I could see her limitations. I could see that she was quite biased on a few topics, on a few themes that I was exploring at that stage. And she wasn't able to support me on those themes. Even though she was very helpful in the past, even though I gained a lot of benefits and it was very helpful for me in my life, doing therapy with that particular person in the past. And so once we see that, we feel anger. We feel very angry. And I was feeling angry at myself as well. How come did I give away my power so much to that person? How come I let myself being stuck in the same situation for too long, being stuck in not seeing my own power, in not seeing that I was capable in moving forward with my life without it, without that thing? Because I was holding on out of fear and I wasn't seeing my own power in that dynamic. And so that triggers a lot of anger in us, and it can be in a job, in a career. I was as well in the last full-time job that I had. I knew that I could deliver more. I knew that I was worth more than the company was paying me, than the company was rewarding me for, but I didn't know what to do next. And so we become very angry towards that thing, towards the person, towards the company, towards that situation. But in that process of feeling angry, it's also important to acknowledge the role that that thing had in our lives. A job, the salary made us safe, made us feeling secure in our lives. The therapy was helpful for me in a given moment. A person in your life, that person had meaning for you, even if now you feel that you're going your own way, you're going different directions. But at some point, that person had meaning to you. And so it's important to acknowledge that role that that thing had in our lives and move forward with gratitude, for that chapter that is now ending, because we're now opening space for new things to come into our lives. And we can also let go of our own behaviors and belief systems. We change our perspectives quite a lot in our lives. And so even if you don't have a specific thing, maybe you are going through a transformation yourself. You're going through, certain belief systems. You are updating your behaviors, something that you did in the past, you don't want to carry moving forward. And we can also let go of that, our own behaviors and belief systems. And so right now, maybe you're feeling that the next step. You don't know the journey, but you know the next step. You know what you have to do next. It's time to research new possibilities. It's time to trust in myself more, to take the next step. And maybe right now you're feeling that urge. You're feeling the pull towards the next action to take. And so I hope you get to acknowledge that in yourself and have gratitude on the role that that thing had in your life. When we focus on gratitude, we signal the universe, we signal that we acknowledge the important part that that thing had in our lives. And we clear the space, we open the space for new opportunities, for new experiences, for more fun, for more excitement to come into our lives, because we are releasing the anger and we focus on gratitude instead for the role those things had in our lives. So let me know, what are you ready to let go of, and what are you clearing space and allowing into your life right now? I want to hear your feedback as well. And so I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day. Peace. Bye.